Dear one, I don't know how you found this letter, but I'm so glad you did. You might be feeling like you're wandering in the dark right now, unsure of which way to turn. If that's the case, let me tell you something I've learned over the years. Sometimes, being lost is the first step to finding yourself. I want to share a story with you, one from my life when I too felt utterly and completely lost. Maybe, just maybe, it will help you see that you're not alone, and that even when we feel like we're drifting aimlessly, there's a path waiting for us to take that first step. A season of feeling lost. Years ago, not long after my children left home and started their own lives, I found myself in a strange and unexpected place. For decades, I'd poured my heart into raising my family, tending to their needs and keeping our home running. I loved being a wife and mother. It was my joy, my purpose. But when the house grew quiet, and the days stretched on without the constant flurry of activity, I began to feel empty. Who was I without the busyness of motherhood? Without the daily routines that had anchored me for so long? I felt adrift. I remember one particular morning when I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my cup of tea and thinking, what now? I felt like a sailor who had lost her compass, unsure of which direction to steer. The road to rediscovery. It was around that time that my dear friend Maria invited me to join her for a walk. Maria had a way of sensing when I needed a nudge, and I'm forever grateful for her wisdom. As we strolled along a wooded path near our neighborhood, Maria asked me a simple yet profound question. Suzie, what makes your heart sing? First, I didn't know how to answer. I'd spent so many years focused on everyone else that I hadn't stopped to think about my own heart in a long time. But Maria didn't rush me. She simply walked beside me, quietly waiting for me to find my own words. Finally, I said, I don't know, but I'd like to find out. And that's where my journey began. Not with a grand revelation, but with a willingness to explore, to ask questions, and to rediscover the person I was created to be. Lessons from the journey. Looking back on that season of feeling lost, I can see that it taught me some of the most valuable lessons of my life. I want to share a few of those lessons with you, in case they might light your way as well. 1. Embrace the unknown. Being lost is uncomfortable. I won't sugarcoat it, but it's also an invitation to grow. When we're lost, we're forced to step outside of our comfort zones and try new things. For me, that meant joining a quilting group at church, volunteering at a local shelter, and even taking a painting class, though my first attempts were more abstract than intentional. Each of these small steps helped me discover new interests and talents I didn't know I had. More importantly, they reminded me that life is full of surprises, and that sometimes the best paths are the ones we stumble upon when we least expect it. 2. Listen to your inner voice. When you're feeling lost, it's easy to get overwhelmed by the noise of the world, the opinions of others, the pressure to have it all figured out, and the endless comparisons to people who seem to have their lives together. But here's the truth. Your journey is your own. During my season of searching, I started spending more time in prayer and quiet reflection. At first, it felt strange to sit in silence with my thoughts. But over time, I began to hear the still, small voice of God guiding me. Sometimes that voice came as a gentle nudge in my heart. Other times it came through the words of a friend, a verse in scripture, or the beauty of nature. If you're feeling lost, I encourage you to carve out time for stillness. Listen to what your heart is telling you, and trust that God is speaking to you, even in the quiet. 3. Lean on others. One of the hardest parts of feeling lost is the sense of isolation that often comes with it. But let me tell you something I've learned. You don't have to figure it all out on your own. When I was struggling, Maria was my lifeline. Her friendship reminded me that I wasn't alone, and that sometimes the best thing we can do is lean on the people who love us. If you're feeling lost, reach out to someone you trust. Share your feelings, even if you're not sure how to put them into words. You might be surprised by how much lighter your burden feels when it's shared. 4. Remember that God's got you. One of my favorite Bible verses is Jeremiah 29 verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. There were many days when I clung to that promise, even when I couldn't see the road ahead. And you know what? God was faithful. He led me through that season of uncertainty and into a life that was richer and more fulfilling than I ever could have imagined. If you're feeling lost right now, I want you to know that God hasn't forgotten you. He sees you, He loves you, and He's guiding you, even when the way forward feels unclear. A story of hope. Not long after I found my footing again, I had a conversation with my granddaughter Emma. She was in her early 20s at the time, fresh out of college and unsure of what to do next. I feel so lost, Grandma, she admitted one afternoon. Everyone else seems to have their lives figured out, and I don't even know where to start. I hugged her tightly and said, Emma, feeling lost doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're growing. And just like a seed has to be buried in the dark before it can sprout, sometimes we have to go through seasons of uncertainty to discover who we're meant to be. That conversation reminded me of the beauty that can come from being lost. It's not the end of the journey, it's the beginning of something new. My prayer for you, dear one, if you're feeling lost today, I want you to know that I'm praying for you. I'm praying that you'll find the courage to take the first step, even if you're not sure where it will lead. I'm praying that you'll discover the beauty of the journey and that you'll be surrounded by people who will walk with you along the way. And most of all, I'm praying that you'll remember this. You are not alone. God is with you, and so am I. With love and blessings, Grandma Suzie. Thank you, my dears, for spending this time with me. Remember, life's journey is better when we walk it together. If these stories and reflections warmed your heart, Be sure to subscribe and join me for more wisdom, comfort, and a little sprinkle of joy. Together, let's keep growing one story at a time. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, and remember, you're never alone. Grandma loves you.